Um, Interreligious dialogue, and I would like also to mention that in most of my presentations, most of things that when I teach, I like to have a very interactive teaching style. So I hope you will care to join because you're helping me also. I don't know always if I'm correct, if I'm right. The students are always here to question the lecturer, not only to learn about him, from him. So once again, yes, I'm. You can see my name here, Vedran. I'm from Croatia, and the Center for Interreligious Dialogue is also situated there. But I work in many international areas, also intergovernmental organizations with interreligious dialogue. It's a fascinating field, and let's go into it. But first of all, there is a question of what is a religion. When we are talking about interreligious dialogue, then we have several components of this word. One is inter, another is religion, and the third one is dialogue. So we might understand generally what is it about, but when we want to define things, we want to go deeper into the meaning of the word. So religion, what is a religion? I think that as many people there are on this call, they would probably have a quite different understanding of religions, or if you do have similar ideas, it would be incomplete. Um, why incomplete? Because religion is a system. It is a structure which is has many layers. And when we say religious, or we will say religion, you would have to be very precise. What do you mean about that? When I approach religion in terms of interreligious dialogue, I always try to find what is it really that we are talking about. Is it religious teachings, the teachings that we have in sacred scripts in every of our religions? So the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, the Tripitaka, all the Torah, so many different religious holy scripts that are teaching us something, and this teaching constitutes what we say is a religion. But also, when we say interreligious dialogue, we might think about institutions, the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, the temples, the clergy, the hierarchy. So this is something quite different from Holy Scripts itself. These are institutions that we can see and that we can feel in everyday life, and these are having some kind of authority also, if not legitimacy. And I'm quite open to discuss this later if you want. What is the authority and legitimacy of these institutions, especially when we compare it with religious teachings? And finally, there is a huge world of habits, customs, traditions, rituals that are very, very diverse. Even if we take just one religion, or even within one religion, one denomination, and if we, like, for example, if we want to go to Christianity and we take Roman Catholicism, or we go to Islam and we take Shia Islam, then you will see that there is so many different customs and so many different rituals that you might question, is this really the same religion? So when we talk about religion, we want to be sure what we are talking about. All these things are religion. They are part of religion. But what is that we are talking at the point when we meet? So the second part of the interreligious dialogue is itself dialogue. And when we say a dialogue, it is often understood that it is basically a conversation. It is a conversation, of course, but there are so many other ways how to do dialogue. Dialogue is itself the conversation between two people. So you cannot have dialogue with yourself. Also, there is a way of spiritual dialogue, which I will come to. But often when I hear interfaith or interreligious dialogue, I often see that people think about debating among religions. These are conversations like we have now. We are conversing, or we are teaching, so or discussing at scientific conferences, academic conferences. We are discussing some points, or we take positions, and then from this position we enter the dialogue. None of it is dialogue, in my opinion. And there is this differentiating in interreligious dialogue, that you can dialogue with yourself, which is meditation and praying, and dialogue with the other, which is basically what we are talking about here. But I offer a working definition of interreligious dialogue as an informal process of learning about the other in order to positively transform relationships. And this is also quite heavy definition, so let's go and deconstruct it. So an informal process. Why is it an informal process? Why not formal? Well, if it is a formal, then we have to go back to the first slide, and then we will have to look at the religious institutions. These are made of hierarchies, of clerical hierarchies mostly. Not every religion has the same way of understanding this hierarchy, but most of them do. And if there is a formal process, then it means that someone has to be in charge of this formality. And it is mostly a religious leader, like a bishop or a mufti or a grand rabbi. So it is someone who has the authority over teaching, over institution, who is having lots of priests, monks, and other clerical persons who will depend upon him in a way of almost a loyalty. So what this person can offer, this person can only offer a formal and a formal stand, go broader. It cannot go, because of the position, can go further if they are
It appears that the connection has
talking
gone
in one's own name. The whole
Vedran O, Gina, you are cutting out a little bit on your connection.
Yeah. Okay.
If it gets worse, you might have to just stop your video, and that'll increase your bandwidth, so that
I mean, I have full signal, so that's why I'm a bit. Do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Okay. Let me stop video, because you don't have to look at me so much. Yes. So that is what I mean by informal. Informal is when you do not talk in the name of your religious community, but you talk in your own name, but you're still a member of this community, and you still engage with others. And in what do you engage? You engage in the process of learning. And this is why dialogue is not debate.
Ahorita voy a actualizar. Hicieron otro link, doctor.
Yeah, okay.
Déjeme ver, pero eso que le...
So it is that's why it is not a debate, a conversation, a discussion, or anything else. It it is a process of learning about the other. So you gain knowledge about the other in direct contact, or if not in direct contact, then at least in a way that is not a formal education. And why do we do that? We do it to positively transform relationships. And this is what is emphasis here, the relationships. We, as we can go to the social identity theory, and we can think about categorizations and identifications, but we are always having a relationship with someone. And it can be a conflict, it can be peaceful relationship, it can be cooperation. But what is interreligious dialogue doing here is that it engages different religious communities, and the aim is to positively transform relationships. Even if they are good, they can be always better, but unfortunately, mostly it is not good, and it is in a way of a conflict. And before I go to the question of what is really going on here, let me ask you if maybe few of you can tell me, what do you see on this photo, in this picture? If you can write it down, or you can say it just quickly. Anyone? A girl. Okay, we have Senglang saying a girl. Yeah. All right. Does anyone? It is like a ghost. Okay. A woman with feathery hat. Yeah. A lady in deep thought. Excellent. Does anyone see the old woman? Okay, the question is, Sabina, what do you see in this picture? A lady. Okay. Yes, there is also, if you can see, there is also a old lady that is, let's say, contemplating, yes, as Burungi says, and a person covered. Yeah, that's true. Old man in the old fusion. Yes, exactly. Elvis. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. Okay. So we have so many ideas about what this picture shows. So many different perceptions, and so many different connection, without even thinking that you ask me, or I don't know, or if you would be able to ask this person on photo who she is. Is she a young lady looking somewhere on the horizon, or is it an old lady meditating, or anything? So there's so many different perceptions only by looking a physical appearance. So perceptions are definitely something that we have to think about when we start to engage with others. You obviously had a perception of me when you saw me, because I'm in a clerical dress. You instantly, by nature, you have a perception. And it is a perception that is continuously present in relationships. Always you have a perception in first few seconds, and then you continue naturally to engage with this person or disengage with this person based on this perception. But these perceptions are often connected to prejudices. And we have here several prejudices that are being very prevalent in viewing religions in the world. So one is that Muslims are terrorists. Yeah, Muslims are primary terrorists in the world. Whoever is a Muslim by this prejudice is definitely supporting some kind of terrorist actions. Christians are polytheists. Maybe we don't hear that often from the perspective of Western world, of the Western Christianity. But if you go in among Muslim or Jewish population, they would always say, they would say Christians, but Christians believe in three gods, not in one, Holy Trinity, right? So you're in fact polytheists. You're not monotheistic religion as we are. Or there is a prejudice that Buddhists are relativists, that everything is relative in Buddhist worldview. Nothing is really taken for granted. Everything is a big illusion. Or there is this idea that Jews govern the world, that they're head of finances and politics. Or that Hindus believe in thousands of deities, but none of these prejudices is, of course, as you might understand, there is a clear answer to every of these prejudices, and none of them are, some of them may have some kind of ground that shows you, like, I don't know, Hindus believe in thousands of deities. You might say, yes, it is true that they have that it is a polytheistic religion that have many deities. But basically, if you go to a single Hindu, this Hindu will tell you that he or she follows one or two deities, so it is not really that all thousands of them are present in everyone's mind. Or Christians explain what is Holy Trinity. Also, it is unexplainable basically from theological point of view. So perceptions and prejudices are often forming the way how we behave in the world. We are often faced with it, and interreligious dialogue is here to give you knowledge, to provide knowledge in a specific way, to have these prejudices gone, and also to have a clear understanding, a clear perception of any given religion that you're interested in, including your own. So, what is it? Why do we do it? Why is it necessary to enter a dialogue? And I can tell you one thing. I had a privilege to meet and work with one of the very famous interreligious practitioners, and he told me 98% of dialogue activities that we have in the world is complete failure. It doesn't help to stop whatever it is intended to stop. But it is also a transgenerational thing. You cannot expect to see results in this generation, but we hope to be on a good way. So why do we do a dialogue? So there are so many things where religions can have their say today in the world. One is post-conflict societies. I work in this field for many years. I am especially for the Balkans and for the Caucasus and some in the Middle East, and a little bit also in Thailand and Nepal. So these are societies that had conflict in the past, or they're still in conflict. But one element of this conflict was associated with religion. Maybe it is too much to say that religion has always been misused because there is some cooptation of religious communities there. And again, I go back to the idea, what is religion? So is it an institution, is it a teaching, or is it a custom? So in this case, the religious institutions, for example, can gather in interreligious councils, as they do mostly, and then they have a line of different activities that help post-conflict societies to heal, because this is something that peace building itself cannot provide. It cannot go to the last village in this place where there always will be some religious person. And at the other time, the peace building cannot reach the psychological and indeed religious aspects of conflict and consequences of conflict that had on people. So this in this case, it is a very tough, very I would say sometimes quite pessimistic way to engage with, because there's so many steps, one step forward, two steps back. But still, this is something that religious institutions should do by the very position they have in society. When we look at Europe or USA or North America in general, we can see now big waves of migrations, and this is also something that is connected to religion, because most of these migrants, even if they are not particularly religious in their own home countries, when they come to Europe, for example, they would gather around a religious community or religious ethnic community, because this is where they feel safe. It is a safe space, and religiosity is rising up at that moment. But there is also migrations everywhere in the world. So in Africa, in Asia, there's always a huge migrations, and this is also something that is sometimes a burden to religious community. So they need to be they need to enter a dialogue also. There are also many existential threats in the world today, not only wars and conflicts, but also first and foremost, of course, the environmental crisis, biodegradation, and climate change, which necessitates a big activity of many people. And this is also something where interreligious dialogue can enter, not of course with solutions, but it can enter with giving an understanding to religious community, why is it necessary to engage. And in the end, I would like to tackle the question of tolerance. Do we enter a dialogue because of tolerance? I think not. I think it is not something that we should do, because also there is tolerance is a very positive word in international vocabulary, but in interreligious dialogue, tolerance is very negative word, because it means that you have to tolerate someone. When you have to tolerate someone, it is almost a command. It is not out of your spiritual reason to love or to accept another, but it is a thing that you tolerate someone because these are the circumstances in which this someone is present, and you cannot change the circumstance. So this is the understanding of tolerance in religious terms. Of course, it is maybe definition of it is maybe different in civil society. When we enter a dialogue, among different religious communities. It means that these communities are there to find some, they have some kind of understanding that the interreligious dialogue is necessary. So it is something that you do not enter under pressure, but it is something that you enter voluntarily. And if you have two or more religious communities that have a kind of necessity to gather, especially if they have been in a from communities that have been in conflict, then the first thing they can do is to enter a dialogue of harmony. Dialogue of harmony is a process of connecting across religions and finding common ground, which means that through this learning process, I will explain what kinds of this learning process exist. Through this learning process, there are ways to find similarities between religions. So if we gather together and we say, I don't know, that the idea of suicide is wrong, or the idea of abortion is wrong, and etc., then we have something to connect with. We have something where across all religions there are some ideas that are same, give the same message, and this makes a common ground. And based on this common ground, we can build trust. This is what is the aim of dialogue of harmony. It is very nice, but in the end, we want to build trust. It is not easy. It is very difficult and time-consuming thing, because trust building is, as such, very, very difficult. But through the learning process and through the steps, which also include things like overcoming good versus evil narrative, because this narrative always gives you back to the revenge, always takes you back to fighting the evil. But if you accept the trauma, then you can maybe go on and find a way to build trust with this community that once was in conflict with you. When we get this trust, then we can talk about dialogue of differences. Dialogue of differences is an honest, informal process that is educating participants about what separates us. What is it that makes our religions so different at one point, but also what differences are. What are these differences that separate us, that we cannot continue dialogue or continue things? So the question is when to enter this dialogue. When is the right time? The right time is, in my opinion, when we have established a connection that is based on trust. It doesn't have to be necessarily a thing which is institutional. So it doesn't mean that, for example, okay, here we see three religions. We see Roman Catholic Pope, we see one Mufti and one Rabbi. So it doesn't mean that these three institutions will gather together and peace and love and everything else. No, it means that at some point there will be, on a local level somewhere, a rabbi and an imam who will not have a problem of cooperation, of cooperating. they will both, for example, in terms of contemporary conflicts, they can for instance work in their own communities by downgrading extremist views and radical worldview, and they can work together. Why? Because they can trust each other, and they build this trust through the dialogue of harmony. So when they feel that they can enter something that will transform their local communities, then it is a time to enter dialogue of differences, to ask what is it really that is separating us. At the same time, I have to say here also that there is always a kind of but sometimes you have to know that people who enter into religious dialogue might not have a noble idea, let's say so, or they might be spoilers of the process, actively or passively. And through the years, I did find some people who come there to proselytize, meaning to say that okay, your religion is fine, everything is okay, but mine is better, and mine is so someone who is there to convert, for example. Or there is another extreme, which is the syncretism, when we want to connect religions so much that they form another religion, which is a mix of everything, which is not it is not really something that is necessary. In fact, approaching the interreligious dialogue means that you are steadfast in your own faith, that you do not have that you have enough knowledge of your faith, but also that you really believe in your faith. And when you meet someone else and learn about them, mostly, I would say 95% of cases, is that you are even more sure that your religion is correct. But it doesn't mean that you have the right to the other to say your religion is not correct. So this is the rule of dialogue and engagement. But it is also not pluralism in terms of let's gather as many religions as we can, which is also sometimes which I see around the world. If we have more religions, it will be better. No, it is about quality, not about number of religions that are present. If you have there will always be interest from minority religions, because they want to engage because of their own status. But I would say that it is more about people who would, in particular cases, in particular reasons, would have enough power, let's say, to make some things in better relationships. There are many things that you can do. One is within the dialogue of harmony, there is this dialogue of life, which is everyday encounters. In many multi-religious societies, especially if these societies are mixed in geographic areas, you have interreligious dialogue every day, because you're interacting with people every day. So these are everyday encounters, which are basic, but also they can be they can allow you a way to learn more. So, for example, if you live in a big city somewhere in USA or Europe, you can go to your, I don't know, shop or bakery or someone who gives some service and who is of another faith, and you can ask this person something about their religion, which is a step further, much more than most people do. But But usually it is some cultural events like art events, music events, the ways that people that are people gathering together, and of course one of the most cherished is food sharing. With food, of course, you always have connection to the other, to the big other. It is always food that is and that is breaking the silence. So it's an icebreaker. There is also some ideas about praying together. These are mostly silent prayers and silent meditations. These are silent because we do not want to break this idea of syncretism, so we don't want to make some kind of novel approach to some kind of interreligious prayer that doesn't exist. We pray our own prayer in ourselves, but we are physically together with everyone else. Another kind of dialogue is dialogue of theologians. And this is something that is oriented mostly to theologians, as it said, to the clergy, and it falls under the scope of interreligious studies, which is a field, a subfield of religious studies, and there are some academic journals that is connected to this, and this dialogue is mostly done through the meetings of clergy and especially of seminarians. So the young students of theology, of whatever religion, can come together and share the thoughts and share the knowledge and their worldviews. It is also necessary to have dialogue of theologians because they make a content, they make religiously approved, so specialist approved approach, which will not be something that is against the religious teachings. And then it can go to the point of agreements and high-level diplomacy. So when you see, I don't know, the Grand Imam of Al-Azhar, and in Egypt, who is the leader, spiritual leader of Sunni community, and the Pope, for example, then they sign some agreements, but it is based basically on the dialogue of theologians and how theologians gathered together and work for months before the meetings of clergy that gave the final document. But this final document is just, I would say, a light, a light that can guide you. But basically, if you do not have activities based on this document on grassroots level, then it is futile. Everything that exists in interreligious dialogue is basically on local level. This is where the real dialogue happens, because if a pope cannot not impose, but if the pope cannot deliver the message to local levels in any country where Catholics live, then this job is not well done, or it is still to be done. I don't know how much time I have. I would not go so much in case studies. These are some of the case studies where I was involved. I lived in Bosnia and Herzegovina for 6 months, dealing with Interreligious Council of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is a body that connects 4 religions and tries to make a very solid post-conflict peace building, religious peace building. Not very successful, but still quite institutionalized. I have also been in southern Thailand, where there is a conflict between Buddhist and Muslim communities with some heavy violence, bombings, and it is also quite interesting because it is government-led. And Cyprus is also an interesting case, which is an island that is, as you know, divided between Greek and Turkish community. But the thing is that Cypriots had a very nice local grassroots movements, interreligious movements. But then, because they were succeeding in finding a Cypriot way of connecting, the government of both sides stopped this process and took the interreligious dialogue on highest national level, which is something that happened also, for example, North Macedonia, and it is obviously when these things are not really good for politics, then they can just give it to some bishop. And as I said, bishop cannot lead an interreligious dialogue per se, because he cannot go to local communities and not represent his community. And there are also many international organizations. I would say over 30 or 40 international organizations that are doing interreligious dialogue in many levels, in many ways, many approaches. I'm sure that in almost every fair country there will be one, and I work with 3 of them, and it is a lot of bureaucracy, I would say, a lot of interest also, but in the end, this is how things are done. And this is how ideas about workshops, about do house and everything else come into picture. But what is also important for international organizations is that when they focus on some area, they have to know that this is just an introduction. These are just the tools, but the tools have to be applied according to every special case study, to every special community or society that has at least necessity of interreligious dialogue. Also, I think that because of position that religion has, at least in identifying from the perspective of identification, which says that more than 90% of population of this planet believes in some kind of in some kind of belief that is religious, then we cannot stop of arguing that interreligious dialogue is necessary for the world. Thank you.